بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Dear students, السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. عادل حسين. We will complete our course Environmental Accounting. We finished chapter 1 and chapter 2. Now we will begin chapter 3, Measurement of Environmental Costs. Accounting for environmental costs. The activities of the entity have environmental costs and liabilities that affect the financial statements in some way. This effect may lead to a clear confusion between what is considered current costs and what can be considered capital costs. First, current environmental costs. Current environmental costs are defined as those costs for which the financial year is incurred and which is directly or indirectly related to the benefits realized during the fiscal year. Examples: production, waste treatment costs, costs of disposal of waste and waste resulting from the activity, costs of staff training programs related to environmental fields, environmental management costs. 5. Internal audit costs and environmental review in general, the costs of hiring experts, costs of sampling and analysis, the necessary treatment costs for employees of establishment resulting from the activity of the establishment. Current costs. These expenses are incurred or charged to their fiscal year according to accrual basis. The current costs. This type of expenditure is charged to the income of the period in which they were spent, such as contributions to educational and health funds, training programs for disabled workers, all costs used in waste disposal, wages of supervisors for product safety, etc. So these expenses are charged to their fiscal year according to accrual basis. So we should apply accrual basis, not cash basis, according to the current costs. The accounting entries for such expenses will be as follows. Proving the expenses. Expenses in accounting. In the first stage, these expenses will be in the debit side. These expenses were paid cash, so cash will be in the credit side. So in the debit side, workers' wages, any expenses in our example should be in the debit side, cash will be in the credit side. In the second stage, at the end of the year, we should close these expenses in the statement of social costs and benefits. In the first stage, these expenses will be in the debit side. So when we close these expenses, it will be in the credit side. In the debit side, we will put statement of social costs and benefits because these expenses lead to reduction in the profit. So statement of social costs and benefits will be in the debit side, and these expenses will be in the credit side at the end of the year when we close these expenses. Another type of costs, capital environmental costs. Capital environmental costs are the set of cost items incurred by the enterprise or project causing the environmental damage in return for the provision of machinery, equipment, and equipment that contribute the reduction of pollution and the treatment of its effect for several periods or years. So the benefit from these costs will be several periods or years. Environmental capital costs, the following conditions must be met. First, these environmental costs may result in future economic benefits. 2. These expenses are recoverable from future economic benefits associated with them. Costs increase the production capacity and useful life of assets. 4. Increase costs and improve safety and efficiency. The entries according to capital costs will be as follows. 1. Purchase equipment for pollution control, so the assets are increased, so it will be in the debit side. Cash is decreased, so it will be in the credit side. So the entry will be equipment for pollution control in the debit side because assets are increased. Cash will be in the credit side because assets are decreased. 2. Proving expenses necessary to operate the asset, such insurance, transfer, etc. These expenses, very important to the asset, make our asset valid to use. So these expenses should journalize, should record in 2 stages. Stage number 1, these expenses will be in the debit side, cash will be in the credit side. These expenses in the debit side, cash in the credit side. Insurance, transfer, etc. Any other expenses related to an asset will be in the debit, cash will be in the credit. Second step or second stage, these expenses should load to the asset, should capitalize to the asset. So the entry will be these expenses in the credit side because we close these expenses in the asset. The asset will be in the debit side because the asset is increased. Equipment for pollution control will be in the debit because this asset is increased, and these expenses will be the credit side because these expenses will be closed in the asset. At the end of the year, depreciation premium shall be made in one of the known or fixed consumption methods, such as straight line method for calculating depreciation. In general, our entry will be depreciation will be in the debit side and the credit side will be accumulated depreciation. So after calculating the amount of depreciation, this amount will be in the debit side, premium depreciation of pollution reduction equipment. Credit side will be accumulated depreciation of pollution reduction equipment. Premium depreciation will be closed in the statement of social costs and benefits. Premium depreciation firstly will be in the debit side, accumulated in the credit side. When we wanted to close the premium depreciation, it will be in the credit side, and the statement of social costs and benefits will be in the debit side as follows. Statement of social costs and benefits, debit. Premium depreciation, credit. It means that premium depreciation lead to reduce our profit, so statement of social costs and benefits will be in the debit side. Disclosure in the financial statements. Firstly, statement of social costs and benefits consists from expenses and revenue. Expenses, premium depreciation of pollution reduction equipment. Revenue, capital gain if we sell an asset. Another statement, balance sheet or our budget, consists of assets, liabilities, and owner's equity. Assets, economic assets, social assets, pollution reduction equipment at the amount of acquisition less accumulated depreciation. Example, on 1 January 2020, Suez Company purchased filters to reduce the pollution of the production from the smoke generated by the factories at the amount of 20,000. The customs fees were paid 2,000 and the transportation expenses 500 and the installation expenses 1,500 were paid in cash. The annual depreciation premium was 10%. On 10/1, sterilization materials were purchased for 2,000 and the salaries of the personnel specialized in the maintenance and repair of pollution reduction equipment during the year 1000. Required: prepare journal entries, prepare closing entries, show the impact of these entries on social financial statements, statement of social costs and benefits, and the budget or balance sheet. The journal entries will be: first, purchase process. When we purchase filters to reduce pollution, this filter considers equipment for pollution control. So equipment is considered an asset. When we purchase an asset, it means assets are increased, so it will be in the debit side. We paid this amount cash, it means the cash will be in the credit side because cash is decreased. So our entry will be equipment for pollution control 20,000 in the debit side, cash in the credit side 20,000. 2. There are some expenses relates to an asset. These expenses are customs duties, transportation, installation. These expenses record in 2 stages. Stage number 1, these expenses will be in the debit side, cash will be in the credit side as follows: custom duties, transportation expenses, installation expenses 2,500, 1,500. These amounts, these expenses were paid cash, so cash is decreased, so it will be in the credit side 4,000. Second stage, these expenses should be loaded to our asset. So asset is increased, these expenses will be closed in our asset, so it will be in the credit side as follows: load the value of customs, duties, and transportation and installation of asset. Asset will be in the credit side because the asset increases. These expenses will be closed in the asset, so it will be in the credit side. Custom, duties, transportation, installation. These expenses make our asset valid to use, so it considered capital costs, capital expenses, not current expenses. There are some expenses, current expenses, not capital costs, not capital expenses. These expenses, firstly, in the debit side, workers, wages, materials, 1,000, 2,000. These expenses were paid cash, so cash will be in the credit side. At the end of the year, we should calculate premium and make closing entries. Firstly, depreciation premium will be made according to straight line method. Our asset will be exactly 24,000. Cost of purchase 20,000. Expenses that relate to the asset and should capitalize to asset 4,000. So the total amount of our asset 24,000. 24,000. Depreciation rate is 10%, so the depreciation will be 2,400. The entry will be premium depreciation of pollution reduction equipment in the debit side. Credit side will be accumulated depreciation of pollution equipment. Closing expenses and premium depreciation in the statement of social costs and benefits. Premium depreciation, workers' wages and materials. These expenses, firstly, record in the debit side. So when we close these expenses, it should be in the credit side. These expenses lead to reduction in our profit. So statement of social costs and benefits will be in the debit side. Again, these expenses, firstly, when we make the first entry for these expenses, it will be in the debit side. When we close these expenses, it will be in the credit side. Okay. Disclosure in the financial statements. There are two statements. Statement of social costs and benefits. Statement of financial position, balance sheet or our budget. Firstly, statement of social costs and benefits. This statement consists of expenses and revenues. Expenses, premium depreciation of assets 2,400, workers wages 1,000, materials 2,000. The second, according to the second statement, balance sheet or budget consists of assets, liabilities and owner's equity. Assets, economic assets, social assets. Social assets, economic for pollution control 24,000, less accumulated depreciation 2,400. According to the first year, accumulated depreciation equal premium depreciation. At the second year, equipment for pollution control 24,000 as the first year. Accumulated depreciation. This asset has been maintained in our company for 2 years. So depreciation per year 2,400 multiply 2 years equal 4,800. In this lecture, we explained how to record current assets and close these current assets in the financial statements, and explained how to record capital costs in our book, and how to make depreciation, and how to make statement of social costs and benefits. بكده نكون خلصنا النهارده المحاضرة بتاعتنا. نتقابل على خير في المرات اللي جاية. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.